Welcome to Painting Made Easy with April May. I'm April May, and today we're doing a mother and child portrait in colored pencil. So let's get started. Okay, so for this project, the paper I'm using is Stonehenge, the 90 weight, in the 26 by 40 inch white paper that I cut down for this project. The project dimensions was 24 by 24. So I had some scrap left over, and that's what I used to kind of figure out what my color layers were going to be, and I'll explain that in a little bit. I'm also using the Prisma colored pencils, which I love. Them with this paper was perfect. And then I used OMS, also, which is odorless mineral spirits, and I used the Mona Lisa brand odorless mineral spirits. And the combination just really smooths out these pencils beautifully. And right now I'm just layering in my first couple layers for the sleeve. And I used a bunch of different colors in this project, and I don't know if I will be able to go in and remember exactly what colors I used. I'm sorry if you hear a bunch of background noise. My parrot, every time I go to start talking, she talks, so I'm sorry for the distraction. I've had her for so long that I just tune her out, but if you're not used to having a parrot, then I know she's probably, making a lot of racket back there. And you can see right now I have my paintbrush, and I put down my layers, and I use a very light hand, and I just layer the colors down, and then I go over it with the odorless mineral spirits. And my first layer or two, I use like a lot of the OMS, but as I add more layers of color, then I will dab my paintbrush onto a paper towel to absorb most of the mineral spirits off of my brush. And I just want that kind of oily residue is enough to blend the layers once you have a lot of color layered on. Because then those later layers, when you have a lot of layers on there, if you use too much of the odorless mineral spirits, it'll actually take the color off. That's why I pretty much blot all of the liquid off of my paintbrush to where I just have that oily residue left, and that will, kind of soften the pencil marks and makes it look real smooth. And to get the skin tone, I had to use, depending on, like around the ear, I think I used two different colors. Kind of a very soft, kind of a taupey gray, and then more of a skin tone. And that mixture made my lighter tones. And then when I get over to his face, I'm using more of three colors, and that's when I use my little scrap piece of paper. I figure out what color needs to be on the bottom what color needs to be the middle color and what needs to be the third color. And then once you layer all three of those on, and I use little circles, I kind of use the side of the pencil and I do like little soft circles all the way down. And again, I'm using a very light hand for all of my layers because I don't want to burnish. If you burnish, you flatten the tooth of the paper and it's hard to layer more color on. And so once you get to your final layers, you can do that, but in the beginning you don't want to do that. But you can see here how when you put that OMS, how soft it makes the pencil. It almost makes it look like paint or like a watercolor. It just really softens it nicely. But I figure out what three colors I needed to make my skin tone. And usually I use a combination of 2 to 3 colors for my skin tone. And then I'm using glassine under my hand in certain areas. That's that kind of clear paper, shiny paper stuff that looks like wax paper. That's glassine that I put underneath my hand sometimes so that I'm not smudging color. And for the skin tone, for the darker skin tone, I think it was a combination of like a burnt orange, a peach color, and then kind of a really light, it was kind of a beigey gray color, almost a taupey color. So now I'm working on her teeth and mouth. And with the teeth, you want to make sure, even though when you look at the original photo, it looks like they're white, but they're really not. They're kind of an off-white. So you want to make sure that you use a very soft off-white color. I think I used a kind of a very soft gray for the teeth. You don't want to just leave them stark white. And the main tip I can give you about using colored pencil is to start your layers, start off light and then work up to your dark layers. You don't want to go dark too fast, because if you make a mistake, especially once you put the odorless mineral spirits down and use it to blend, it's hard to soften that color back up. You can a little bit, but you can't do it by much. And so you definitely want to build your darks up kind of slowly, so that you don't go too dark too fast and then realize you've made a mistake. See, and like I did her skin tone in this, it's a really cute picture, but the reference photo doesn't have not a lot of detail. You can't see the eyes in this painting, and it's a little washed out. And so when you follow the original photo exactly, you see dimension in his face, but you don't in hers. So I had to kind of add that dimension in to this. When I did the portrait, I had to kind of add some dimension to her face because a lot of that was washed out in the original photo. So you can see how that odorless mineral spirits, how it's blending that color out. It just, I loved this paper for this project. The combination of the Prisma colored pencils and the Stonehenge 90-pound paper. It was just great for this. And there were some things that I did. I tried to, when I sketched out the faces and his arm, in the original picture, the arm is very prominent and it looks really big because it's the closest thing to the camera. So when I did the portrait, I needed to make sure that it didn't look quite so big. So I had to kind of narrow that down. And that's one of the things about, people always wonder, why would you make a painting of a photograph that already exists when you could just blow the photograph up and mount that on the wall? But the thing is, I was able to make some of the adjustments that you couldn't in the original photo, like his arm looking so large. I was able to kind of shrink that down a little bit. And I was able to, right here, my camera slipped and I didn't realize it. So for a portion, the camera is kind of off at a bad angle. So, but I think you can still see what I'm doing. Anyway, I was able to make his arm more proportionate to the photo. I was also able to fix the hair around her cheek. It was kind of like a bunch of hair strands that were kind of all wadded up, and instead I made them look more solid. So those are, you can fix kind of some of the flaws that are in a photograph and perfect them in a painting. Anyway, so that's, that's kind of one of the points of doing a portrait of an actual photograph. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Thank you.